I don't want my heart to become hard in a relationship, whether it's with Wayne or anybody else, so that 4:23, out of the heart flows the issues of life. I've been meditating on that verse. It doesn't just flows the issue of life, but when you look at various translations, it says it controls the course of your life. In marriage, you have to make sure that your heart has not become hardened, because it's going to control the course of the marriage.
We just came from Destin with our family, and we went around the table and had a we talked highs and lows. What's your best part of the week? What's your worst part of the week? And one of the things that I was able to reflect on is there are multiple prizes and rewards that you get the longer you stay married, and one of them is like what we had last week. A lot of people don't get to sit down at a table, one husband, one wife, one set of kids. And the only way we could have that experience is Mary and I had to be married for 40 plus years to see the fruits of it.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to Big Picture Podcast, where we discuss faith, testimonies, and perspectives while focusing on the big picture. I am your host, Susan Obi. Welcome back to the show and happy Wednesday. I post episodes every other Wednesday. And for today's topic, so again, we'll be talking about marriage, but this time this will be from a different perspective. So today's episode is titled The Truth About Marriage, and I really just want to hear from different generations. So y'all heard from my friends Julia and Juan, the millennial edition. So today I want to hear from Mary and Wayne, who fall into the category of boomers. Mary and Wayne are amazing. They are from my church home back in Ohio. They have a lot of wisdom, very, very involved in the church. Mary is my teaching mentor, so I just have had a lot of opportunities to teach under her and through her and listening to her teaching. So I definitely wanted to have her on the podcast today. So thank y'all for joining.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm just going to get into it, just ask y'all a series of questions and really just want to hear y'all's thoughts. But before that, can y'all introduce yourselves, tell the people who you are, where you're from, what you do?
Wayne Thomas from Dayton. I keep very busy. We got a couple of houses we rent.
Wayne, is that what you're doing full time? What do you do in the church? I know are you on the board at church at CLC? Okay.
Yeah, he's done a lot of different things in serving at CLC. He's on the elder board, and I used to help in our business. I still do. We have a business called W&M Properties, and we're in rentals. And then at church, I am employed there as pastor over the small groups. And then I volunteer in women's ministry alongside Pastor Libby. And I am lead teacher for the women's retreat for Africa. So whenever we go to Eswatini, we have ICBCs, which are in community by community, housing, churches, and preschools. And we go for a women's retreat every other year. So I train, teach, and lead in that area of ministry. I also have a ministry online, Dove's Cry, Women Helping Women Incorporated, and I've been involved in founder of that for 10 years now.
Yeah, I'm also part of that. So that's one of the platforms I've been able to teach and go through Acts. But we haven't started First Peter, right?
No, we'll start in fall.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah. So thank y'all for sharing that. So yes, y'all keep very, very busy. And then my small group when I was in Ohio was meeting at y'all's house every other Tuesday.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that was awesome. Okay, so first question I wanted to ask about marriage. So the title of this episode is The Truth About Marriage. So just in this question, how would you answer that? Like if someone's asking y'all, what is the truth about marriage? How would you respond to that?
I personally would say it's more than falling in love, and it's a, covenant, and it's based on love, God first, and then when you have God first, then everything just lines up with what God calls for in marriage itself, and it's a becoming of one. It's a becoming of one. And I would say communication is so important in that process of becoming one.
Yeah. So when you say it's based on love, would y'all say that's something that is felt by both parties, or it's more of a choice, or how would you kind of go into that a little bit more with it being based on love? Because can people love each other but still not have a good foundation for marriage?
That's a good.
You want to take that?
When you're young, it's a lot of feelings.
Hmm.
But as you get older, it's more commitment, and communication's important.
Mm-hmm.
If you can figure out how to do that.
Yeah, you have to figure out how to communicate effectively. And one of the keys that I've learned from him is listening. Yeah. And for me to answer your second question, I would have to have you repeat it again.
Yeah. But I do like that response of love being feelings at a young age. Obviously, I'm young, so I do get that. But you can still have those feelings as you get older. Is that right?
Oh,
Or is
yes.
it more of is there more of an effort to make sure, like with date nights or hanging out together, like kind of keeping that spark alive? How would y'all say that y'all have done that?
We have, and Wayne started this, a Friday date night. And we do it every week. And last night was our Friday date night, and we enjoyed our communication ride to the restaurant. We always pick a restaurant to go to, and enjoyed our conversation there. Our oldest son is doing date night with his wife,
Mm-hmm.
so he does little family outings with the kids on Fridays. So yeah, they've seen us display that, and he's doing it.
Yeah, really important. The question I asked before, though, was about love and can two people love each other but still not have a good foundation for marriage?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen people get married and they did not have the foundation of their parents and that example. They love each other and they want to do better than their parents.
Mm.
So I think you can still have love, not have the foundation of your parents, but with any marriage, when you start out, I think that foundation of counseling, marriage counseling, and the foundation of both believing in God and having a relationship with God is very important for that love, that feeling of love to remain.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For the next question that I wanted to ask, which I like this question. So, what is a perception about marriage that you feel is falsely advertised?
That I think that you're always happy. If you watch a movie, if you read a book, and if you go by people's Facebook pages, you would think that people are happy all the time, and I think that's false because there's ups and downs in any relationship, especially marriage.
Yeah. People don't talk enough about problem solving skills in marriage. And so you get a perception that it's problem free.
Mm.
I think that term happily ever after. I think that's in marriage ceremonies. And it's not happy ever after. It's mountain and valley experiences and the endurance um, in those experiences. And you can just come out and in the end and say, oh my gosh, look at, especially when you look back, how God has kept us. So it's not really, I think a false, if I would go back to that false, it's not us that keeps us. We contribute to it. It's the work of the Holy Spirit and having um, that commitment to the word covenant. Um, yeah, covenant is very important.
Yeah. I think with problem solving skills, I think that's a good answer. I was trying to think more about that. Why would that be important? Why would that be important to have in a marriage? What's the danger of not having that?
You're gonna have problems. And a lot of unresolved problem solving and conflict resolution, de-escalation skills. Somebody has to lead that, and it takes two people. Takes two people, but sometimes one person can help lead the engagement.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's good. De-escalation skills. I'm just going to leave that there. I don't need to ponder on that. That is a good one. Okay, so for y'all, what is something that is working in your marriage and something that has not worked in the past?
I would say the working is the date night. The working is once a year, and sometimes twice. We get away from here. We go to another state or out of the country, and we enjoy the things that we do because when we're here and being self-employed, you're just occupied, and also being active in the church, you're occupied with the employment. You're occupied with church things, and so those two things, and then shutting down the phone um, would be my third thing that I would say. What was the negative question?
Yeah.
What hasn't worked in the past?
What hasn't worked? Let me think on that. I'll let him think. I'll
No
let him
problem.
speak on the what hasn't worked.
What has at least one thing I think work is keeping your mouth shut.
Are you saying that has worked for you or for both of y'all?
It can work for anybody. Quick to hear, slow to speak.
Hmm.
No matter what the situation, is probably even more important in marriage because you're living with the person and words go on forever.
Hmm.
And once you release them, it's very difficult to manage that. And those words that you release are uh, they're constructing your future. And if you are releasing words that are not constructing a future that you want, if they're coming across in anger or whatever's going on inside of you, and you're projecting that on somebody else, um, you just impacted your future in a very negative way. And it comes in little small pieces here and there throughout over time.
Hmm.
So you got to be very careful with the words that you release. And you can kind of get a gauge of where you're at based on the words that are being exchanged between the couple. Happy thoughts, happy conversation, that kind of thing. And then there is a time in your communication where it's probably best to uh, stop communicating. Go to neutral corners.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. All right. The second part was what is something that has not worked in the past? That y'all are like, okay, we need to stop doing this. This is not working for us.
That's a good question because, I'm sure you've heard this. The definition of insanity is to continue doing the same thing and expect different results. And so I would say, I don't know if we had anything that we tried and didn't work, or we might still be doing something that we haven't recognized we need to change.
Yeah, you know what? Now that we're talking about it, I will go back to early in our marriage when I had heard a teaching from Beth Moore, and she has shared that we as women are not our husband's Holy Spirit. And so I would say in our early marriage, I wanted to form him spiritually into what I thought a man should be spiritually. And that's between him and the Lord. And I'm not his Holy Spirit. So I would say early in the marriage, and he may not have known I was trying to do that. You know, encourage him to do this. Don't you want to go here? Don't you want to go to this man's event? Don't you, you know, and that's not his thing. So I just stopped encouraging him to participate in certain things because he's more of an introvert than, to me, introvert with that engineering mind, thinking things through, than an extrovert where he likes to be with a bunch of people, you know? So I think that's what was bad on my part, that he really didn't realize he was doing it, but I knew I was doing it.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to the topic of learning to accept the other person and not try to mold the other person. If you can learn to listen and understand who they are and what their visions are, then you'll have a lot more success at trying to form that relationship instead of trying to form that person.
Yeah, I think that probably a lot of women can relate to, just maybe not even in just a marriage, just generally in a relationship, but probably more so pronounced in a marriage, of wanting the other person to be a certain way based on your perception of this is what a godly man should do, or this is what a man should do. And then maybe even based on what you think other people might think if he is doing that or not doing that. So I think that's a really good reminder, and probably something that as women, maybe we do that without knowing that we're doing that. So that was a good one.
Yeah, but even with that interaction that he just shared, he just said the same thing I thought I was doing. He just put it another way, but that's not just a woman thing, but it's a man thing. Because I remember in our younger conversations that Wayne had certain expectations that in a wife, and I think even that is something that should be shared early. And what he just said, trying to form each other into what we think a wife or a husband should be, and just accept that person for who they are. I think that's really key. Yeah.
Okay, next question. Since God created marriage, can you speak to marriage from a biblical perspective?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is the creation of Adam and Eve. And God said it's not good for Adam to be alone, because Adam had the animals that he had just named. And he had that relationship with God too. And you got to think God is a spirit. But God still said it was not good for him as a human being to be alone. And so he created Eve. And with that creation, they become one through intercourse. They become one. So that oneness, two triune beings becoming one is pretty cool. So, and from I would look at Genesis. I would also look at iron sharpen iron, even in marriage from Proverbs. That's a good verse in regard to marriage, and leaving your parents and cleaving to your husband. Another biblical um, thing that a lot of people can't do. They can't, and we didn't have that problem. Both our parents did not get involved in our marriage, and we didn't run to our parents for advice and stuff. We solved those issues or any issues within ourselves, and I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably say that part of that would be the leaving and cleaving. And the cleaving part. The leaving part's not. I don't think it's so difficult, at least not for a guy. But the cleaving part is what you have to get good at, which to me is uh, you're trying to figure out how to hold together. And then kind of go back to your question earlier regarding love, developing that Corinthians 13 model of love that shows you all the disciplines of, how love, it suffers long. So, sometimes during downturns in marriage, you're exercising your love by just bearing through it. And a lot of times, those kind of things, they don't last just a day. Sometimes they last a long time. Mm-hmm. So practicing at least that dimension of love, of loving during a difficult time, or knowing that you're modeling love by being patient when it's tough.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Patience. Love is patient. I know that's in 1 Corinthians 13. And yeah, I think that's a really, really important aspect to remember. Leaving and cleaving. Okay, so what would y'all say that the big picture is? We're talking about marriage, and I definitely just really wanted to hear from different generations. And how long have y'all been married, by the way?
He's always right on that. So
let me get my phone. I think we're married 41 years this year.
Okay.
Okay. See, I would have said 42. So I'm always, yeah. He's better in the numbers area.
Mm-hmm. Just lost track of time. So
Yeah.
what would y'all say the big picture is? So if you were talking to a couple that's thinking about marriage or engaged or newly married, how would you point them to the overall big picture?
Man, I would say the big picture is communication.
But that's a whole topic in and of itself, because communication just isn't exchanging words effectively. It is, you got to understand the other person, because what you say to them, and by the time it goes through their filter and get mixed up in their whatever and however they was raised, or the way their home environment, they're bringing all of that. So you got to understand the other person and then meet them where they are in your communications. So,
Do you think that could solve a lot of problems in marriage? Better communication?
yeah, but it starts a whole lot, because there's a lot of nonverbals. I'm gonna have to think about that a little while, Susan.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of you gotta look and understand that other person's makeup, and you might be able to say one thing to one person and not think anything about it, but because you know that this other person may have been raised in a home with a lot of maybe with a dad that's overbearing, well, in your communications you might have to navigate completely away from being any kind of overbearing, because the way the other person is culture is, anything in that neighborhood seems like you're being forbidden.
Yeah, I get
And
that.
it's hot, and then you're dealing with all of that background, and you might not even know why. Yeah, so understanding the other person and getting to know the other person is important. And we're, like Mary and I, we're both wired very differently, even in our communications. And I have to I have to.
Mary's like, what are you about to say?
I have to be very careful when I communicate. But I think it is very important for the man to understand in the relationship that he truly is the leader in that relationship. And so that invokes a higher level of responsibility on your communication, on, when to be quiet, on when, well, let's handle this topic another time. Well, let me just be quiet for now, or let me not respond to that, or let me uh, a soft answer. So you have to lead in that kind of way, and sometimes men get that mixed up with aggression and that kind of thing. But you're a more effective leader being quiet and mild.
Mm.
That's why we're still married.
He's patient.
He's very wise. I was also thinking, Susan, um, when he talked about family and where you come from, it's so important. And his mom gave him a lot of wisdom in the area of looking for that person that you're going to be with. It's certain things to look for. So that training is important from your parents, but it's also important that you don't carry into your marriage things that are generational and recognize that it's generational and work on, this is what I was raised in, but this is what is going to happen. And while we were talking, I was thinking about Proverbs. I think it's 4:23. Out of the heart flows the issues of life, and so the heart. Oh my gosh, it has to constantly and what I've practiced, especially this year, is Lord, create me a clean heart, a new heart. I don't want my heart to become hard in a relationship, whether it's with Wayne or anybody else. So that 4:23, out of the heart flows the issues of life. I've been meditating on that verse. It doesn't just flows the issue of life, but when you look at various translations, it says it controls the course of your life. With it, the heart just controls a lot of stuff. So in marriage, you have to make sure that your heart has not become hardened, because it's going to control the course of the marriage. And things will spring out of you if you don't continually work on your heart. So I think that's very important as we talk. That just came to my spirit as we were sharing.
How do you work on your heart?
Oh man, confession. Confession and realizing that the issue may not be the person, and we're talking about marriage. So I may see an issue with Wayne, but it's not him. I'm the one that has to change. So when you are working on your heart, you ask the Lord, what do I need to change? In the midst of praying over the marriage itself, what do I need to work on? And that verse that he quoted, be slow to speak, from James, that was one of my theme verses 2 years ago. Because, shoot, my mouth could just flow out all kinds of things. So, how do you work on your heart? You work on yourself. Um, and the word will reveal who you are if you allow the word to do what it's supposed to do in the area of correcting and improving and instructing us in the area of righteousness. That's what it. That's what the word does. But I got to begin with me.
Yeah, and I kind of have a running policy that anytime I see something that I think she needs a change in her, I'd look for it in me, and then I try to make those adjustments.
Something to think about, something that I'm sitting with, and I hope that people listening are sitting with as well. I'm not going to comment so people can sit on what y'all said, But do y'all have any other closing thoughts? I think this was really good, and I'm just hoping that people are taking this in, because maybe sometimes people don't have that foundation with their parents or good examples in their life. So I hope that people can listen and say, hey, I'm going to take this for myself. And I think that working and understanding each other, let me go back. I think the topic of marriage and really understanding how to do that God's way is important, because, like y'all said, it's shaping your future, but then also if you start thinking about children and then their children. So just having that foundation is good, just because it doesn't just affect you, it affects generations to come. So
Definitely.
that's why I think this is an important topic.
Yeah, we just came from Destin with our family, and we went around the table and had a we talked highs and lows. What's your best part of the week? What's your worst part of the week? And one of the things that I was able to reflect on is there are multiple prizes and rewards that you get the longer you stay married, and one of them is like what we had last week. A lot of people don't get to sit down at a table, one husband, one wife, one set of kids. You're not dealing with all the dysfunction of a blended family, because that's another very difficult subject. We were able to sit there as a family, and the only way we could have that experience is Mary and I had to be married for 40 uh, plus years to see the fruits of it, and it's very rewarding when you do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have four children, four grandchildren. So to be able to go around the table and talk with them as adults, your high and low, and share still, that was pretty cool. And also he did morning devotions, which he used to do when all the kids was here. So that brought just memories, because it wasn't always easy to wake kids up ready to go to school and do devotions. But he did it, and he did it persistently, and he did it until they were in high school. And to see us again in Destin, Florida, an Airbnb, and have that experience, like he said, we would not have been able to do that if we hadn't stayed together through the ups and downs. And I have a picture. It's a wood um, background that it's a piece of wood I gave Wayne for his birthday or anniversary, and it says, "I love you. I can never love you more than I love you today, but then there's tomorrow, and I'll love you even more." And I can say I love this man. And it's, up and down, but we have grown together from meeting at 17 to
Mm-hmm.
I was a senior in high school. He had just finished college. We have grown together, and I can't think of another best friend I could have in my life than Wayne Thomas. So
Aw,
yeah.
that's really sweet. I love that. And I really just appreciate y'all sharing your experiences and wisdom. And this was helpful for me. And I hope that it will be helpful for those listening. So thank y'all for coming on. Everyone, thank y'all for listening, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if this was helpful for y'all. There's also an Instagram page, and just hope that y'all have a great rest of your week, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.